Hello there, Rams Nation. Welcome back to another edition of the Rams Up Roundtable here on the Rams Up Podcast Network. Keys to victory versus the Arizona Cardinals as the holiday season gets kicked off. And real quick, happy holidays from us, the Rams Up crew, to you and all our fellow Rams fans, football fans, and anyone else tuning in on this video. Happy holidays. Eat good. Hopefully, family time, friend time with your loved ones, and whoever you are going to spend time with ends up being a good one these next couple of days here. But gentlemen, how are you doing today on Christmas Eve? Gosh, time flies.
Yeah, I'm just relaxing here, have some family over tonight, and yeah, good times. Yeah, just chilling. I'll have some football games to watch on Christmas Day, which I don't think
Oh
that's
yeah,
really a great idea by the NFL, but I'll take advantage of it.
I forgot about that. Crazy
Yeah.
Wednesday games. What about you, Paul? You tuning in? You're gonna be a football junkie like us?
Oh yeah, we got plenty of people over. Today is my mom's birthday, so shout out to Mama Bear.
Shout out,
Right,
mom.
happy birthday. Nothing but crazy love. Um, have a lot of family over. It's going to be great, and looking forward to a very uh, low key rest of the year until 25 hits. It's gonna savor the remaining days.
Yep, savor those remaining days as our Los Angeles Rams are trying to savor these next couple weeks of days, games to get into the playoff tournament. And gentlemen, it's always good to get a Rams W. Load up those Christmas trees, get your nice cars ready, wherever you are on planet Earth celebrating Rams football. Enjoy it as the Rams got that big, much needed W. I know a lot of people said, hey, they don't really need to win against the Jets. No, 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 no. As many games as you could jump in front of the Arizona Cardinals and others, that needed to happen. But with that said, before we move on to this big matchup on Saturday, we got to hand out some Rams Up game balls to guys or groups that balled out and did just enough in the positive side of things to get a Rams victory on this past Sunday. So I'll start with you, Mark. Who are you giving out a game ball to based on what they did against the New York Jets?
Well, this is more of a cumulative award from me. And, last week, the previous week, we held the 49ers to 6 points. This week, we hold the Jets to 9 points. And our defense kind of took some heat over the first part of this season. There were times where we just did not look good defending the run, giving up big plays, getting gashed by every wide receiver that faced us, it seemed like. And then, they're kind of putting it together. So I decided to give my game ball to the defensive front as a group. You can include the defensive linemen, the outside linebackers, Omar Spates, the whole group. I mean, they are really coming through. And I know people have issues with perhaps the game plan against the Jets, but I'm not going to fault the players. They played really well. And they're just in a zone right now, and I almost feel like this defense is gelling at the perfect time, making plays, and especially defending the run. I think statistically we're still pretty far down in the rankings as far as yards allowed per game on the ground, but I think it's a deceiving stat. If you think you're going to be able to run on this defense, I mean, we all saw what Saquon Barkley did. But aside from that, really happy with that, where the direction this defense is going. So I just decided to give a game ball to this group as a whole. I didn't want to just single out a single player. Thought about maybe Cam Curl for the one big play, but I'm going with the defensive front as a group.
Yeah, they did just enough. And speaking of your game plan, I didn't like that they were giving up the short passing to Rodgers, but they bent a lot, but did not break. And I thought that was key and critical to us getting a victory. And a lot of those fourth down stops were fantastic. Rewatching that on film, and that was great for sure. But Paul, who are you giving a game ball to based on what they did this past Sunday against the New York Jets?
Yeah, I had to go with the Big Rig Higgs, man. What a great holiday present the Rams received, right? And upon his return. So the emotional lift just the physicality he brought almost immediately the minute he stepped on the field, throwing the body around in the ground game, and then, of course, getting airborne for that touchdown. Just watching that entire sideline just explode. And then I got to tell you, what really cinched it up for me was the locker room speech, quote unquote. We got something special here, boys. That's exactly right. If you look at, I always leave the same screensaver up, the background for the last, couple of years. I don't want to talk about playoffs. I don't want to talk about it. It was a great moral victory. That's the only reason we tune in and give up all that time, right? We want to see the confetti fall. So I'm with Big Riggs. I think something special is going on, and I'm looking forward to that last game of the season when the confetti is falling.
Did you hear about the montage his wife put together?
That's fantastic.
That was pretty cool. Yeah. I guess capturing him through all his rehab, which was, 10 months, 11 months?
Yeah, I mean, brutal. And real quick, everyone who didn't see our post-game reaction, we talked about that knee injury and just how awful it was. And then I think when he fell, after he got blasted in the knee by those dirty Lions, I think he separated his shoulder too, if I remember correctly. It was like a triple whammy, dude. ACL, MCL, and
torn
shoulder.
labrum, yeah.
I mean, labrum. Damn, dude. And then Higbee had been, he throws his body around and gives it all in the run game. So he's been a guy who's been banged up a ton as a Ram. So respect to him, balling out on his first catch, leaping in. And real quick, for anyone who didn't see our post-game reaction, Rams PR put out a stat that Higbee has the 13th most receiving yards in franchise history, passing Bob Boyd, for anyone who remembers him. And he also tied Robert Woods for 14th most receiving touchdowns in team history with 23. So Higbee, Rams legend. I'm sure more Rams tight end history book stats will fall in his favor, and he'll keep climbing up the leaderboards overall for a pass catcher and a touchdown maker. Shout out to Higbee. Hopefully he's a big part of what things go forward to win the West. And I am happy to see him out there. But who am I giving a game ball to? Well, gentlemen, I think I got to give it to our favorite player, most likely this season, based on what he's been doing. And I got to give this thing to running back Kyren Williams. Another 100-plus yard rushing game. And dude is what Paul likes to say. He is made of iron. Iron Kyren, it feels like. Bulldozing through people, bouncing off tackles. And yes, just like Kevin Demoff said in the history of Rams running backs, is he a game breaker like every other running back you can think of in Rams history, where they take a little 1 yard running back dive and somehow turn it into a 99-yard touchdown? That is not Kyren's game, but he's special in all the other ways. Pass blocking, yards after contact, getting those short yards. I've never seen a running back be so automatic in a while on short yardage situations. Think about Rams Nation, all the short yardage times he's gotten the ball, and many a times this pass game. And Rams PR putting out another fun stat for us to digest. Running back Kyren Williams recorded a single season career high with 13 rushing touchdowns. He also tied Derrick Henry, Jalen Hurts, David Montgomery for the most games with at least one rushing touchdown this season with 10. Dude's an all-pro level player. At the minimum, he should be the Pro Bowl, even though we know that's a fan vote, and that gets pretty whack and tricky most years in recent times. But he should be an all-pro, should be considered for it. I know Saquon and Derek, but are they getting the ball as much as Kyren when they're loading the box like that? I don't think so. So Kyren Williams is my guy. Shout out to his running, which led us to victory on the ground game in frigid, cold weather. I mean, Paul, what is it right now for you out there, just out of curiosity again?
We are 24.
Yeah. So it's freezing, and getting hit when it's cold is so much worse than when the weather's good for everyone who hasn't played football in cold weather. So Kyren can handle it all. He's the train that'll get this Rams offense going to win the West and win some playoff games, hopefully, if we get there. But with that said, everyone, before we move on to this big matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, we got to talk about Paul's, not starting blocks, not building blocks, Paul's paving blocks, as we get a new name here going into a Western Division clinching scenario. So take it away, Paul.
Yeah, so now we are paving that road to the promised land, as they say, right? So right off the bat, we've been talking about Iron Kyren and the running game. I just want to start off by reading a wonderful, wonderful quote from our president of operations, Kevin Demoff, People associate us with the high-flying passing attack, but when we are at our best under Sean McVay, we have run the ball with authority. I think that just pretty much talk about a paving block. That is a keystone block. Drop it right in there, and that is where we build everything from. So if you take a look at the Jets game, this is the first time in about, I would say, about 5 roundtables where we've talked about the TOP not going our way. And it made a huge difference in the number of possessions. Now, Ram Nation, there you go. Perfect. Of how instrumental TOP can be, of how it limited the number of touches and number of possessions the Rams offense had in the first half. And it was very, very significant. And it sort of really quelled the ability of the Rams, the passing game particularly, to find rhythm, right, to get in sync. We saw that the number of incompletions, and we also saw Matthew Stafford, right, first interception, right, in a number of games. Think about that. So just as we had talked about that, TOP went south, and we saw that the dominoes start to fall. The Rams rushing offense now, on average, 107.5. The last 3 games, 145. What did they do against the Jets? We just talked about Aaron Kyren, 132 against the Jets total, right? The Rams rushing attack was 132 against the Jets. And more importantly, we saw Blake Corum get in the mix, and we saw what a fresh back with hot wheels can do for a running game. All right, that one that was called back, and honestly, that was sort of a ticky-tack call, but that aside, we see what a fresh pair of legs can do, and we also have to balance it out because when we get to the stats, when we go down the page a little bit, we'll talk about Aaron Kyren and the number of attempts that he has so far. He's already over 300 for the season. Rams must resurrect their deep strike passing game. We had talked about the 0 sack number. 0 sacks since the New Orleans game. That's the stat that matters, right? They have 7 games this season with 0 sacks. 7 so far.
Ooh, that's more than I thought. Like we talked about on the post game, I thought it was 5 or 6. 7. That's fantastic.
It's 7 with 0 sacks.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
So that shows that this Ram O-line, since that they have come together, right, that 5-man unit has really, really responded positively, right? The familiarity. Also, I think the balanced attack offensively plays into that, right? When you have this, what we talked about before, the balanced attack with the running game complementing the passing game. Teams can't really pin their ears back and come after Stafford. And I think that's another reason we had talked about it at our last roundtable is that if you think about this, why is Stafford under center? He gets to watch the defense the whole time. He doesn't have to take his eyes off the defense. He's calling all the audibles. He's doing the line calls, the adjustments. We see that. So it makes a lot of sense that they're moving to Stafford under center. And I think that's the way it's pretty much going to stay going into the playoffs. Look at the third down percentage, 36%, up to 24th in the league. 50% third down percentage against the Jets, and over the last 3 games have been fairly consistent. If you take the average, they're at 50%, right? And that's exactly where they need to be. And I think they're going to wind up being even higher. Look, you have a game that it was, lousy weather. They were not happy. They had a lot of sound bites about the Rams saying, warm up the trucks, let's go, right? So if you take those 2 into account, for them to be at 50% over the last 3 games really speaks volumes. And this is my favorite metric right here. Let's take a look at the ground game, right, with Aaron Kyren. He's number 2 in the league in attempts. He's number 3 in yardage. He's tied for first in rushing TDs, right? And he's tied for first in rushing first downs, all right, and first down percentage. How awesome is that? So when he carries the rock, he's moving the chains. That's the bottom line. So when you take a look at this TOP and this balanced attack, take a look at Aaron Kyren because he is moving those chains, and that first down percentage speaks volumes. The Rams defense is averaging 23.1 points a game for the season, and 19 they have now officially, over the last 3, they are under 20 points. So they are at 19 points over the last 3. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. So we're starting to see things come together in terms of the defense. The defense, I think it's more a matter of, listen, you can't reinvent yourself at this point of the season. You do have to, though, find out if what your defense does well and what the team is comfortable executing. So I think that's really what's going to, over the next 2 games, I think that's what they're going to be looking at. but great paving blocks as we pave our way into the playoffs.
Woo! I mean, the formula is there, Rams Nation, as we've talked about many a times. Many a times. It is there, and great job here, Paul, paving the way with whatever block you want to present to us. Fan-freaking-tastic. But with that said, Rams Nation, we must move on to the big matchup on Saturday Night Football against the Arizona Cardinals. And I think it's important before we get to that to just a quick little recap of that ass kicking we took against them, man, in that week 2 game. So Rams versus Cardinals week 2, we were coming off the Lions loss in overtime, and we thought, okay, we're pretty good. We should be able to go in and beat Arizona. As you know, we had beat Arizona for a gazillion years in a row. It was something like, since Aaron Donald's been a Ram at least his entire career, it was something insane. And we got our asses whooped. That's just plain and simple. In that game there, Kyler Murray had a career day passing, passer rating wise. Marvin Harrison, who didn't get the ball that whole week 1, and the whole thing was like, why isn't Marvin getting the ball? Well, he absolutely shredded us for his best performance the entire year, even up until now, week 17 that we're in, which is insane. He shredded us. I mean, we got absolutely annihilated by James Conner on the ground, Kyler Murray running around. I mean, we got bulldozed on defense, and then offense got equally bulldozed by their defense, which a bunch of guys who you're probably not familiar with. Backups on the O-line. Cooper Kupp got hurt that game. Nakua got hurt the game before. McVay didn't run the ball very much that game, and it was a Stafford save us game with backup O-linemen, and it wasn't a shock that we just got absolutely annihilated and embarrassed, as Kevin Demoff said very nicely this past day or so. And with that in mind, things are much different in this week 17 matchup that is upon us. And both teams are in very different situations. Cardinals lost to the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard ran through people in overtime to score a game-winning touchdown. Their season is kapoosh. No playoffs for them. And we have a chance to make the playoff tournament by clinching the West on Saturday. So Cardinals at Rams. Rams 9-6. Cardinals 7-8. The line, Rams -6. Not a shock for all you betting men out there and women. Last week, like we said, Rams beat the Jets in New York 19-9. Cardinals lost in overtime to the Carolina Panthers 36-30. As that game was pretty fun, as I caught the tail end of it there. And man, oh man, Cardinals 7-8 lost to the Buffalo Bills. Then we got smoked like we talked about. Then lost 3 of the next 4, with them only beating the 49ers in that thriller game earlier in the year. Then beat the Chargers, beat the Dolphins, beat the Bears and Jets, who, those teams all aren't very good other than the Chargers. And then followed by Seahawks loss, Vikings loss, another Seahawks loss, beat the Patriots. They're like, we're still alive. And then they had that crushing overtime loss against the Carolina Panthers. And gosh, gentlemen, what are your quick thoughts on just how the Cardinals season started out and how it finished leading into this matchup that we'll be going into them with Saturday Night Primetime?
I feel like they're just teasing their fan base. There's moments where you think, wow, even the opening loss to the Bills, they almost had that one. And then they crushed the Rams. And you're thinking, if you're a Cardinal fan, there must have been several times over the course of this season where you're thinking, hey, this is it. We finally turned the corner.
Yeah. And
then a couple weeks later, you're like, oh, God, we still suck, just like all those previous years. And then here we are again, 7-8, their season over. But they still have a couple of talented guys. It's just, man, I'm just glad I'm not a Cardinals fan, because they're just a franchise that just they've had their moments, back in the Kurt Warner days where they certainly had some moments there, but overall, just a really frustrating team, really frustrating franchise.
Yeah, it sucks for them for sure. Late season collapses, right, Paul? It seems like that's something that happens to them yearly.
Yeah, that's the theme of the game. As soon as they got red hot, that's what everybody was saying, right? They said, wait a minute, you got to be careful with this team. So, it's a shame too, because they did commit themselves to acquiring more physical players and moving more towards a physical sort of mindset as opposed to finesse, which is great, which is exactly what they should have done. I mean, for their fans. It's demoralizing, but at the same time, just continue to amass talent, draft well, be smart in free agency, the usual recipe, and stay out of salary cap hell, right? And let it sort of come together. And then consistency also within the organization in terms of coaching, et cetera.
Yeah, I know. Bummer for them, but better for us. Sorry, Cardinals fans, anyone tuning into this episode. We wish you the best in future seasons. But I think it's important to go through this roster, as this roster did kick our ass, like we mentioned earlier in the season, and they have talented players. I don't think that's a question. So we can start with the offense real quick, as we know who's in that group. So you got Marvin Harrison, who had a career day against us thus far in his young rookie season. And then you have all the linemen: Paris Johnson Jr., Evan Brown. Gosh, I'm blanking on the center's name right there. Jalti Froholt, if I'm reading that without my glasses. Isaiah Adams, Jonah Williams, Trey McBride, a good tight end, Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson, James Conner, and Kyler Murray. I mean, that's a solid group who puts up points on a lot of teams right there, but wasn't enough this past Sunday against.
Worth noting before you move on, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that I received a note about a half an hour ago from my special assistant that both those starting tackles are going to miss this game.
Oh, well, that's a big key. And hopefully that stays that way. Help out our young pass rush. Get home to Kyler, who we just couldn't tackle at all in that week 2 matchup. So this is the group. Put up a lot of points. Hopefully, without those tackles, we can get to Kyler Murray a little bit faster and get him to the ground, unlike that week 2 game, which had me pulling my hair out, seeing all those missed tackles on Murray in the backfield. But a good group. We don't show up, they'll score points on us just like they did in week 2. So that's the offense, everybody. Defensively, they have a lot of guys who I know sometimes people are not familiar with. They got D tackle Dante Stills, nose tackle Ray Lopez, D tackle LJ Collier, outside linebacker Jesse Uketa, inside linebacker Kazir White, most people are familiar with. Mac Wilson Sr., people are familiar with. Xavier Collins, you remember his time getting picked up. Starling Thomas, Sean Murphy Bunting, people are familiar with. Garrett Williams, Jalen Thompson, and Budda Baker, who just got paid recently, as everyone might remember the 2017 mic'd up of Sean McVay, where he was like, "Where's Budda Baker? Where's Budda Baker? Find him, find him, find him." He's definitely a player that we got to watch out for on the back end, and he is a very talented All-Pro, Pro Bowl.
Hey, and they have a backup cornerback drafted this past year, Max Melton. What school did he go to? Where the heck is he from?
Scarlet Knights.
Oh, that's it. Rutgers. I knew. Yeah, that's
and
that's
a Puka power pick. And a Puka power pick.
And Garrett Williams is an interesting guy. I remember he basically redshirted his rookie year. He tore his, I think it was his ACL. Might have been at the combine or late in the season. And I think the Cardinals really got great value for him. He dropped in the draft, due to that injury, and it's starting to pay off for them, I think.
Yeah, it's a good group. Any thoughts on the roster, the starting roster overall, gentlemen?
Yeah, it's just like when we were talking about the Jets. It's a talented roster. It's just a matter of coming together and getting everything in sync, and finding synergy within the organization. And also they got hit with a ton of injuries too, just like the Rams did. So like Mark said, both tackles being hurt, it doesn't help, right? But there's definitely talent on the roster. They have a quarterback that they are committed to. They have Marvin Harrison Jr. And there's a lot of talent, and Connor is just a beast, right? We've seen that. He's just an absolute beast, and there's talent, and they were smart. I think the Kazir White signing was one that I really liked. Budda Baker is just, we know he's an absolute beast on defense. So, it's don't define your future by one season. It is what it is. Learn from it, build from it, and then move forward as an organization. Listen, we want everybody in the NFC West to succeed within reason, right? But when the NFC West is competitive, it helps every team.
Joe, what about you, Mark? Thoughts on the roster overall?
Yeah, there's two guys that I think we should be aware of. One is their tight end, Trey McBride. I believe he's their second leading receiver, but has not found the end zone all season, which is really kind of odd. And then I think Michael Wilson, the big wide receiver he originally from Stanford, he presents some problems. He's a big dude. So the Rams, it'll be a challenge covering him. But overall, it's kind of a roster that's sprinkled with good players. I don't think it's real solid, especially on defense. So I think the Rams will be able to put up some points on this team.
Yeah, I hope so as well. But out of that group, who are the Cardinals' best players? And we'll start with the man who got paid, Buda Baker. Dude, like we said, all pro, Pro Bowl level player. Sean McVay's always worried about where he is on the field. That he is super versatile. Can line up at free safety, can be closer in the box, like a strong safety, could play in the slot, could probably be out wide as a traditional corner if they need be in a pinch. I mean, Duke can do it all. Dime linebacker. I mean, whatever position you could throw a talented defensive player, he could do it. Blitzing, rushing the quarterback. I mean, all of it. He is fantastic, and he got paid, as the Cardinals value him and all his skill sets, leadership, and everything else. So that's someone we have to watch out for sure. Then who next? Another man in the single digits, jersey number wise, Kyler Murray. Do we have to talk about how embarrassing that performance was trying to stop him in that week 2 matchup? Couldn't tackle him, pressured him, couldn't get him to throw the ball away enough, couldn't stop him from running, couldn't stop him from throwing laser beams, launching it on us. I mean, dude had a perfect borderline passer rating, one of his best of his entire career against us earlier this season. I mean, if we don't get him to the ground in any capacity, rushing or passing, we're in for another long, stressful game. And he's definitely a player we have to watch out for and get down to the damn ground, right, Rams Nation? And someone else who absolutely kicked our ass in that first matchup is James Conner. Dude absolutely bulldozed us in that week 2 matchup. He absolutely has been bulldozing most defenses the Cardinals have been playing this season. And he is a fantastic runner. Shout out to his story for everyone who knows what's going on with him when he had his cancer battle at Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, got drafted by the Steelers, filled in for Le'Veon Bell beautifully. Then, he decided to leave. Cardinals said, come with us. And he's been a fantastic glue guy for them. And if we don't get him to the ground and wrap up and have what's the word I want to say? Just have willpower and say, no, you're not going to get us today. I mean, just like Kyler Murray, we'll be in for a long day. And I hope that's not the case. But definitely those are the 3 best players that we have to account for and stop to get this victory on Saturday night against the Cardinals. But gentlemen, any thoughts on any of those 3 players specifically?
Well, James Conner, right now he's 50-50. I originally heard that he was done for the year, and why not? Why play him? That's the question we have to ask is, does it make any sense for him to try to play in this game with the knee injury? So he's 50-50. So I think we just have to be careful. The Rams have to be careful not to get into this mode of, they got tackles out, James Conner's out. Let's just roll these guys. Cardinals are going to come to play, I suspect. And, I had this conversation with someone the other day, a team in the Cardinals situation. Do some of those players check out? Are they booking their flights to Cabo in the Bahamas? And I don't know, maybe a couple of them. But we can hope Kyler Murray maybe is one of those guys, because he's the guy that scares me the most. And he's the one guy that could really upset the apple cart from the Rams' perspective in this game.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, from my list also, I got Troy Benson out. So that's their backup running back. So that's just to add another wrinkle to the whole scenario. But, from an organizational standpoint, are they, going to pack it in, or are they going to try to salvage the season by playing spoiler? Right? Think about that. What a boost that would be, right, for the fan base and for the organization moving forward. So yeah, it's a huge dilemma for them which way they're going to go. And from a Ram fan perspective, we're hoping they pack it in and call it a day, right? But if they go in the other direction, the last thing that you want is a hard fought game for 4 quarters, right? But let's see how it plays out. It's also good for the Rams, right? The Rams, this uncertainty makes the Rams have to sort of go in full force, make sure they put their best foot forward. And that really should be the mindset going in, right? Prepare for faceless opponents, right? Regardless of record, faceless opponents with one goal in mind, put your best game forward.
Yeah, that definitely has to be the case. And I think it's important, like we always do every Keys to Victory episode here on the Rams Up Roundtable, is what the hell happened since Sean McVay's been our coach? And I think it's important to highlight that, yes, we know that Sean McVay has done a fantastic job against the Arizona Cardinals throughout his career. I mean, if you hear on YouTube watching it with us, a lot of those are W's, and that's fantastic. And then we got a couple L's sprinkled in there that are kind of shockers that have happened throughout the year, or the years, I should say. But never forget the 41-10 that happened this season. That is the most recent, and that is the most important. So hopefully these players are motivated. They do not take the Cardinals lightly, and as they shouldn't anyway. But luckily, fate is on our side, it seems, against the Cardinals most days, most years since McVay's been our coach in 2017. And hopefully we can get back in the win column and start another long win streak against the Cardinals this upcoming Saturday. But gentlemen, any quick thoughts on this McVay history against the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I think it adds up to 13-4. And he's just got to be itching to get back at him in this game. Yeah, the Rams have dominated this series, and that I don't know, that first game this season, it's just a weird. Hopefully, it's just an anomaly, and we'll forget about it after Saturday night. Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, I think from his perspective, not only his track record, but I think he's looking forward to having these last two games being somewhat meaningful, just to keeping everyone engaged. As we wear the Dodger hat, that was something that Dave Roberts said made a huge difference for the Dodgers this year, right? So I'm sure McVay is keen on that as well. He wants to keep everybody engaged, no drop off in intensity or performance. So look forward to that.
Yeah, I look forward to it. That as well. And let's go, gentlemen. Rams Nation. What are these keys to victory on Saturday Night Football to get a win? Possibly win the NFC West. And we'll get through those scenarios very soon. But, gentlemen, I think it's important to go through some stats before we launch our keys to victory out into the universe. Some stat leaders for the Cardinals. So Kyler has 3,288 yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 INTs. James Conner's got 1,000 yards already, as we talked about his productive season. Likely to miss the game, but I could see him fighting to play. It just seems like that'd be in his character to want to be there. Backup Trey Benson, who is very questionable to go in this game, has only a little under 300 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Murray on the ground, averaging 7.3 yards per carry, which is fantastic. And we saw that in week 2. He shredded us. 5 rushing touchdowns, 500 yards rushing. Trey McBride, almost 1,000 yards, but 0 touchdowns. Hopefully that streak continues against us this Saturday night. No touchdowns for him. Marvin Harrison needs a little bit more to hit 1,000, but he's had a decent year. 7 touchdowns, 61 catches, 726 receiving yards. And then Michael Wilson as the third guy, 43 catches, 526 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. So, again, a group that can score yards. Got to watch out for them. Defensive leaders, Budda Baker, almost at 150 total tackles. Insane. He's an awesome player, like we pointed out. Kaiser White, almost at 120 with 119. 2.5 sacks, not bad. Dante Stills, almost had 5 sacks, not bad for a defensive tackle. And Sean Murphy Bunting with 2 INTs. So they got guys who could play, but got to stop and watch out for Budda Baker. And then some other draft picks that they've had. They got the Rutgers of Max Melton that we talked about, Marvin Harrison, Trey Benson, and others that go down the list who have contributed here or there or are main starters. But I think tail of the tape here, what does the stats look like between these two groups? Cardinals, a top 5 rushing unit based on Connor and Murray's production. Points per game up there. Passing yards per game, pretty down, though. It's pretty shocking as they've had their struggles and they're on the lower tier. Points per game, middle of the pack. Cardinals defense, against the pass, they've been doing much better, but they've been giving up a lot of yards recently. Their rushing defense has not been stout in recent weeks. And points per game, they've been bending but not breaking. But, gentlemen, doesn't that fit us very well? Run the damn football on this Cardinals defense, as our stats are very skewed based on some of these high-scoring games, some of the blowout games that have happened on defense, but They are improving. Rams offense, middle of the pack, since those cold weather games have really skewed some of those numbers passing in total yards with the rain game against the Niners, the frigid weather against the Jets. But overall, we know this team, based off majority of the matchups they've had, other than those outliers, shootouts, cold weather, that we think this Rams team is better than the Arizona Cardinals for sure. But with that said, gentlemen, we got to talk. How the hell are these Rams going to win this game on Saturday night? So I'll start with you, Mark. What do the Rams need to do, offense, defense, and special teams, to get a win against our division rival? For the whole world is watching on NFL Network, I believe, Saturday night.
Well, it's just more of the same, right? And you just showed the stats, and I talked about it earlier. The Rams' defense against the run. I think those stats are misleading. And in this game, Arizona, if they are without those top two guys, I was just looking at their depth chart, trying to figure out who they'll roll with. I think it'll be either Michael Carter or DJ Dallas, the ex-Seahawk, or maybe both of them. And, I don't see how anyone would expect this Cardinal team to be able to run the ball on the Rams. I don't care what those stats say. Rams' run defense should be pretty solid in this game. Now, if James Conner comes into this game 100%, that changes things. So then the question is containing Murray and not letting Marvin Harrison and these receivers go off. And we've been improving in that regard as well. On offense, keep on doing the same thing we've been doing. It's not rocket science. Run the ball, play action, get Puka involved. Tyler Higbee, he's back. That adds a new dimension. I think this game against the Jets is kind of a feeler game for him. If I'm not mistaken, he was out there for the first series a little bit, kind of disappeared, came back, made a big catch, scored a touchdown, and I think we're going to see him involved in the offense more moving forward, especially prior to the playoffs, get him really warmed up. So it's pretty easy, pretty simple to say what they need to do. They just need to go out there and do it. Keep that passing game in check, keep Kyler Murray in check, and offense just keep on doing what they've been doing, man.
I agree with all that. What about you, Paul? What do the Rams need to do to get a win on primetime Saturday?
KISS, keep it simple, students, man. Just pound the rock, run up the score, not to rub salt in the wounds, not for that reason, but run up the score so you can get your players off, right? Take the will away from them, say, all right, this one's in the books, right? And hopefully just, wind out the clock. So that's number one. The last thing you want is this like grounded out game for 60 minutes. That's the last thing you want, because that's how players get hurt, and that's all sorts of different scenarios. Because in the back of your mind, the players, you don't want them thinking about, all right, I don't want to get hurt, because that's how you do get hurt. So that's what you want to do. You want to have a great first half. You also want to make it a priority. No more first quarter goose eggs. This trend is so unlike a Sean McVay team, tell you honestly. Yeah. It's like it's to the point of absurdity at this point. But if that could be one area of focus, that really should be it. Come out, just light it up, and then let's call it a day early. Another thing too, with just as a nice subscript, is finding roles, and that we talked about that on our last segment, is that how on the special teams players have found the roles, and coaching staff are starting to define roles. We talked about McCullough, who's got a really nice role. He's not a full-time player, but when he's out there, very, very productive. You got guys out there that are looking for roles. Particularly, I think they need a little bit more on the D-line, guys that can come in and spell these guys. I think you're starting to see it. Mark had hinted about it 2 weeks ago, and we've all been talking about the D-line looks like it's slowing up. They played a lot of downs. There's a lot of wear and tear on those guys. And for outside linebacker too, finding guys, even if they're coming in for a couple of downs, this is a nice game where you could get guys in there. And of course, Blake the Great, you got to spell Kyron. 303 carries already. I mean, the kid's a beast. We know that. But that's a ton. Right. And you want to sort of try and save a little bit of tread on the big dog if you can. So that's another thing that I think. And one more roster, I'm going to dip into the roster rules a little bit more for our next roundtable, is Johnny Johnson, and what they're going to do with him, because he would be a nice addition. Another veteran safety back there in the secondary. We see D. Will and Spoon are starting to heat up. You got veteran guys that are playing the ball with a little bit more confidence. The PBUs and the INTs, when they start coming from those two guys, then the secondary's back in full tilt. Getting Lake back, Lake has to go back to that star position. He just has to. And finding a way for Curl to be productive and getting him as many reps as possible closer to the line of scrimmage. So little things like that, tweaking it in. But I'm really looking forward to this Johnny Johnson scenario if it does come to fruition. I think it's going to be another real addition to the Ram D.
Yeah, I know. We haven't heard much about him in quite some time, or a lot of those injured players. But I think they're saving him for a possible playoff run. It feels that way, which, hey, fine with me. But Rams Nation, what are my keys to victory for the Rams to get a win on Saturday night? Well, offensively, run that damn football. As we pointed out earlier, the Cardinals have not done a good job stopping the run. And I think, after what Chuba Hubbard did to them on the ground this last week, why can't Kyron Williams do those same things or even better, truthfully? So I think attack them there. And then, like everything always happens off the run game, play action's better. The pass is better overall when you do traditional dropbacks. And I think with the Cardinals, they are prone to giving up a lot of intermediate passing yards, which is perfect, right? Little play action, and we throw that deep in dig route to Puka, or you see DeMarcus or Tutu, where does those deep comebacks. I think establishing the run game against, again, a Cardinals defense who has not done a good job stopping the run overall this season, smash it down their face. And I think that'll be a big key to victory. If we can't run the football, then they could tee off like that week 2 matchup and just say, all right, we're going to go after you, Stafford. And that's better for their defense, which is not in our favor. And of course, having all our starting linemen back is going to be a big deal. And that was not the case in that week 2 matchup, as Alarg was suspended, Havenstein was hurt, and those backups that were in were just awful against the Cardinals. But got to run that damn football. And special teams kind of leading with offense. Carr's going to make all his kicks. No more whiffed PAT. The weather's not going to be a problem inside our tented stadium, right? It's not really a dome because it is open on the side. Think of it like a canopy. Roof, open side. So whether it's raining, cold, or whatever here in LA this upcoming week, as it is a little rainy right now here, it shouldn't be a factor. Carter should not be whiffing on kicks. And the field goal kicking unit as a whole, long snapper to holder, that operation should be clean in manageable weather situation here at SoFi Stadium. So make all his kicks, make all his PATs, because, you never know. This could be a slugfest, and he's got to make those kicks. Ethan Evans, continue what he's doing. Bombing punts inside the 15-yard line, those watermelon punts, those rugby-style punts, whatever, term and name you have for him. Keep doing what you're doing, Ethan, and we'll be in good shape. Pin those Cardinals back. Make them have to go 80-plus yards every time to get some type of points. And then defensively, get Kyler Murray's ass down to the ground. It's really that simple. Pressure him, which they did in that week 2 matchup, but they have to get him to throw the ball away, or when he's there and he's in your arms, right? Jared Verse, I know that was one of his rough games where many fans were very sour on him in that game, and our whole defense as a whole, truthfully. But get him to the ground. And if you can't get him, make him throw that ball away. Do not let him run around like Speedy Gonzalez, right? And zip around our defense and find a crease. I mean, we have to contain him, keep him in the pocket. If Kyler Murray has to try and beat us standing in the pocket like Stafford, he cannot do that. His money is running outside, extending plays in the passing game, and obviously his design quarterback runs and rushes off the scramble. So contain him in the pocket. And when you do get home, get him to the ground. And I think if they can do those things, they'll get a win on Saturday night. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, Rams Nation.
Yeah, a couple of things you guys said reminded me, well, of 2 things. One, you talk about our outside linebackers. We really don't have a 4th guy with Nick Hampton out and Brennan Jackson. I was just looking at the snap counts. I don't even know if he was active. So we're really rolling with 3 guys, and that could hurt you against a guy like Kyler Murray, right? They're going to be exhausted at some point. And the other thing I just remembered, if I'm not mistaken, that first game, it was really Trey White that was getting torched a bit, wasn't it? And now we have Akilla Witherspoon. He was out there for 100 snaps against the Jets and apparently playing well. That's what I'm hearing. So it'll be interesting to see what the Rams do as far as Witherspoon versus Durant and how they handle Marvin Harrison. So two things to keep an eye on.
Yeah, most definitely.
And just to build upon that, so I think, the way Tyler Davis is playing, and we were talking about what works best for the Rams. I think the Rams are going to have to play a lot more in terms of that four-man front. They really do. Because of that situation that you just brought up, and also to eliminate some of the wear and tear on the outside linebackers. I think they're going to look good in a four-man front. A couple of plays here and there where they can sneak. They've done it this season and it's worked well. It's looked well versus really a hybrid end outside linebackers, as we know from our scouting reports, because he was one of my faves, is that a lot of people felt that he'd be better off just converting to like this, speed end and play with, the ability to play with a fist in the dirt as well as stand up. So that might be interesting to sort of alleviate that scenario too, because I think Tyler Davis holds a lot of promise, and the Rams definitely need a little bit more sizzle up front. You're starting to see Fisk get worn down, and a player that we haven't talked a lot about, Dewan Johnson, right? Yeah, I think he's a great player. He's very underrated. It's time to maybe work him into the mix. Listen, Mark, like you said, like 5 plays here and there from certain players, that's 10 plays, makes a huge difference over the course of a game. So, to your point, I agree with you. I was in the back of my mind. I was going to say for the next roundtable, but I also think for next year too, I think they need to definitely look at moving to a 43 look. I definitely do. They definitely have the elements of a beast mode 43 look.
Look at it, and I wouldn't be opposed to that, but McVay is so in love with the 3-4 Fangio-esque defense. I would be shocked if they ever made that switch. And would I hate it? No, I do like the 3-4 a little bit more. I think you could do a little bit more out of it. But to your points about stopping the run and just having a hard nose, aggressive smash mouth front, very 1980s style, which kind of fits our mold here of what we like football wise. I get it, but I don't think Sean McVay will switch. He's too in love with the 3-4 Fangio scheme. So we'll see.
But we'll see how it turns out this year. But we definitely need to get some more reps for those guys, because I was watching Fisk and I was watching the interior of their line. Yeah, they were getting worn out, and they definitely don't have. I don't know what you guys think. They definitely are not firing off the ball like they were like in the middle of the season, early in the season. You could definitely see the wear and tear. Well, and rightfully so.
Yeah, that rookie wall, man. Like, their college season would be done at this point for most of these players, right? They'd be playing in a bowl game and that's it, or, the college football playoff that's unfolding. So, hey, it's like, hey, everybody, we've got a long way to go still. So, hopefully they get over that hump. And we know that they're fantastic young players. And I think for this game going forward with what's at stake, I think they'll turn it up a notch and be ready to rock. But with that said, Rams Nation, we got to give you our early score predictions. What the hell do we think is going to be the outcome of this game? And yes, we don't have a full injury report. Yes, we mentioned that there's certain players on the Cardinals side who are out, likely, who are 50-50, and we don't have those confirmed yet. We understand that, but regardless of all that, we're going to give you our score prediction. So I'll start with you, Mark. What do you think is going to be the outcome of this game? Score-wise, Rams win, Rams lose, or Rams tie?
Well, I'm going to be pretty bold here. I think the Rams offense is going to get rolling again. I think this whole team wants a little bit of payback, perhaps. It's such an important game for them. And, when that happens late in the season, I don't think players check out, but there's still such a higher level of urgency with one team as opposed to the other. And that's got to count for something. And I think the Rams are going to win this fairly easily. I'm going to go with 30-17. And given I'm kind of unsure how much the injuries are going to impact this game on the Cardinals side. I think it's going to impact them in some way, though. Yeah, just not sure how much. But yeah, I'll go 30-17 Rams.
Woo! I'd be a happy man to see a 30 burger drop them then at home, and I hope that outcome is very likely. What about you, Paul? What is your early score prediction for this game? What do you think is going to happen? Rams win, Rams tie, Rams lose?
Mark and I have been in sync with our scores over the last couple of weeks. So I had the Rams 31-17, and it'll be much closer than we wanted to be at the end of the first half. And then I think the special teams are going to take one to the house, and that'll be all she wrote, and then it's going to be 31-17.
I had it 31-17 originally, but then I had Jake Hummel blocking an extra point.
Blocking extra point.
So,
well, that's pretty good right there, too. I hope that score is very likely as well. But for me, Rams Nation, what is my early score prediction? I'm thinking it's going to be a close one. You know, I have to see this offense be consistent. And yes, the rain game was no bueno for our team. Yes, the frigid New York, New Jersey weather was no bueno for this offense and the team. But there's been other games where we've been healthy and they've just laid an egg on offense. That's something that still bothers me inside. Yes, this team is a game away and some other scenarios we'll get to from winning the West. But hey, hopefully this team comes out ready to smack the Cardinals around. But I predict this game to be close because our defense has not defended mobile quarterbacks well. So I think the Cardinals are going to get some points on us. Are they going to drop 40, whatever on us? Again, I don't believe that to be the case. But I think this game will be a nail biter to get the West. 23-20. Rams offense will do, some stuff late. I expect another first quarter dud until they change how they've been playing. Right, Paul? Right, gentlemen? I mean, it's just been constant this whole season where they just do not perform well in the first quarter offensively. So I expect that to be the case. And then eventually they'll score some points. They'll get some field goals on the board. But I do think Kyler will probably get a touchdown or two on us, unfortunately. But I think they do win this thing close Saturday night, 23-20. But I hope the scores you all said, gentlemen, are much more in reality of what I think is going to happen. And I'm sure Rams Nation would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, the one problem with predicting, as I just predicted, they'd score 30 points. If they do the ground game, if they approach the game on the ground like we want them to, it limits the number of possessions they have to, and it will keep the score down. So you have a point there. And also recently, the Rams primetime, this is a primetime game. Their primetime performances have been, they seem to do great on Sunday afternoons. But on some of these primetime games, it's just really not good TV.
That's the truth. A lot of defense if you love defense, but other times not so much. But with that said, Rams Nation, what are the NFC West clinching scenarios? As I know, people are all looking forward to getting a hat and t-shirt and buying the NFC West champions of the 2024 campaign, which would be great. So, yeah, right there. Find your phones, order that, get them ready for the playoff run. If anyone likes to collect all that fun gear. But with these NFC West clinching scenarios, it gets a little complicated depending on what happens on Thursday, Seahawks versus Bears, and obviously our matchup, Rams, Arizona, on Saturday night. So, to put it simply, real fast, Rams clinch NFC West title with Rams win plus a Seahawks loss or tie. So, if Seattle, who plays on Thursday right after Christmas, if they lose against the Bears, come on, Thomas Brown, former Ram, get it done for your old homies here on the LA side of things. If the Bears beat the Seahawks Thursday night, all we have to do is win Saturday. NFC West crown is ours. We host a playoff game after week 18. Fantastic. Or we happen to tie with the Cardinals and the Seahawks lose as well. That's another scenario. Then, if we win and our strength of victory tiebreaker happens to unfold, which we'll get into, we'll break that down real quick for you after this slide here, then that's another way we can get the NFC West title. And that Rams strength of victory could be clinched over Seattle with 3 or more wins coming from the following teams this upcoming week. So if Minnesota wins, if Buffalo wins, if San Fran wins, if Washington wins, if Cincinnati wins or Cleveland wins, if they all win, then forget it. But we only need 4 of those to happen this upcoming week. And it's pretty much sayonara, Seattle. You blew your chances when you had the lead on this earlier in the year. So let's go down the road real quick. If things do not go our way on Saturday and the Seahawks also win as well. So if we lose, then that week 17 game against us and Seahawks will be a winner go home game to get in the tournament. But like we said earlier, there's some other kind of questionable scenarios that could happen. So that strength of victory, we talked about the games that were going to happen in week 17. And here, if you're tuning in on YouTube, it's all the matchups that are going to decide that strength of victory. teams that are written in blue and yellow, if that team wins, that'll be in favor of the Rams getting that tiebreaker. The teams that are written in navy and, the highlighter green, those would be matchups and teams that would be in the Seahawks' favor. But if you look at the top of this little chart here, Rams only need 5 of these 17 games to go their way, and that tiebreaker would be irrelevant with the Seahawks. Seahawks need 14 of these 17 remaining games to go their way pretty much, and that's how they would get that tiebreaker scenario. So, yes, that gets a little more complicated, Rams Nation. If things go haywire and we blow a game and things just go not our way and we don't take care of business Saturday night, these are the games that you should keep an eye on. Screenshot that in case things go south on Saturday. But long story short, win on Saturday night, and Seahawks have like a 1% chance, less than 1% chance of getting the West. So, gentlemen, your quick thoughts on all these crazy, scenario clinching playoff odds for the Rams to get the NFC West. I know that was a long tongue twister of words.
Yeah, I tried to go through this myself I was trying to walk you guys through it a couple of days ago, and it's very difficult to explain in words. But
yeah,
bottom line, we just need to go out and get a win. It'd be nice if Seattle loses, but to the Bears, I doubt that's going to happen. It's possible. We need to just go beat the Cardinals, and if it does make you feel any better, I went through those 17 games, and I believe the Rams need to win, are favored in, I think, 9 of them. So it's looking pretty good. It is a long shot, not impossible, but a real long shot for Seattle to steal this from us in these scenarios. But hey, I think we just need to focus on the Rams need to focus on business, take care of business, and they'll be fine. Yeah, I hope it doesn't go down to the last weekend, though. I don't know if I can take it. We need to wrap it up this week.
Yep, I know. Well, go Bears on Thursday, and then we take care of business on Saturday, right, Paul?
That's right. I think the Rams need to close the door, throw up that montage video of Higgs working his way back, and then have him just turn to his team and say, "We've come too far, boys." Right? And for those of you on the pod, that means you are cheering for Cincy, Minnesota, Buffalo, Washington, Cleveland, and that team up in Santa Clara. So they've come too far. From the way the season has started, they got to come out firing on all cylinders, leave no doubt in Arizona. That should be their game plan.
Yep. Yes. And we hope, again, all your rooting interests, we laid them all out there for you. But the most important is Thomas Brown, former Rams tight end coach, running back coach, and kind of do it all on offense with his time with us. Hoping his squad will get a victory against the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday. And then all we got to do is beat the Arizona Cardinals on Saturday, and we'll get those hat and T-shirts for the players to wear and for Rams Nation to go out there and purchase. So those are all the NFC West clinching scenarios. But, gentlemen, before we get out of here, any final thoughts on what needs to be done and just your overall feeling about how Saturday is going to go real quick?
Hey, I think we've covered it all pretty well. I'm just going to relax. Saturday night football, that's a bit different. But hey, I feel really good about where the Rams are. And hey, think about where we were a couple months ago with this team. Man, we just got to enjoy it. The team's relevant. We're playing meaningful football, and that's a lot more than that's more than a lot of other fans across the country get. So, we're pretty. We should be very thankful that this team has bounced back like it has, that we have the leadership and the veteran players, these great young players to root for. It's good times in LA. Let's just go out and make a playoff run here. How sweet would that be?
Oh, sweet. How sweet it would be. I agree. What about you, Paul?
As the last official roundtable of 24, right? Appreciate what we have, appreciate where we are. It's been a great season. Appreciate the hard work of players like Higgs and everybody else. So hopefully the Rams realize, just like Higgs says, there's something special happening in that locker room. So seize the day, boys.
Seize the day indeed. I can't agree more. Rams, get it done. Rams fans, hopefully you can make it out there and get a good playoff atmosphere. The last time Kyler Murray had to face us in a playoff atmosphere, he choked and wet the bed as he had an awful performance in that 2021 season, the wild card matchup where, Kevin Dunlop said that was one of the best home field advantages they've had at SoFi. So hopefully we can get that energy there on Saturday night. And then we can get those hat and t-shirts and celebrate the NFC West Division crown. But again, happy holidays from us on the Rams Up Podcast Network. Enjoy your time with all your loved ones, family, friends, whoever you're spending time with. And hopefully our last little Christmas present will be a Rams victory on Saturday Night Football and NFL Network, where we all can be celebrating that win going into the new year with those hats and t-shirts, right? So with that said, thanks for tuning in on another edition of the Rams Up Roundtable here on the Rams Up Podcast Network. Like, subscribe, and share this video with all your fellow Rams fans and football fans. And shout out to everybody listening on the podcast side of things as well. So that'll do it here. We'll see you very soon with a post-game reaction with a hopeful NFC West Crown Division and t-shirt that I'm sure we'll probably all get here on this crew. But that'll do it. Happy holidays. We'll see you very soon. And go Rams, baby.
Health and happiness to the worldwide family.
Thanks, guys.